Hi, welcome back to Christine's Home Affairs. Very quick project today. It's going to be another folding bag. So come along and I'll show you how to make this very quick folding bag with a little plastic snap at the bottom of it so that you can fold it up and then just throw it into your handbag. Come along. We don't need much for this project at all. We have one piece of fabric that is 15 inches wide by 38 inches long. I'm using a really lightweight rayon. A quilting cotton will be perfect for this as well. This is just a really nice lightweight rayon fabric. So 15 by 38 for the bag. Then I have for my handle one piece of fabric that is 44 inches long by 4 inches wide, and I'll be cutting that in half later to give me the two handles. And to attach our little snaps and secure the bag, we need another piece of fabric that is 10 inches by 4 inches. So I'm using the same fabric for everything today. And we also need to have some snaps. You can use these little metal snaps. I'm going to be using these little plastic snaps. Okay, let's get started. First thing we want to do is prepare our handle and the little tie for the bottom. I've taken the full length of fabric for my handle, folded the raw edges into the center, and then folded that in half and pressed that really well so that it sets a nice crease. And I'll take this to the machine and sew all the way down both long edges of this handle. Easier to do it in one go, and then we can cut it in half later. With this one here, we're going to do the same thing. We've got the raw edges folded in and then folded in again. We're also going to fold in the short edge. So just fold that over by about 1/4 of an inch. Doesn't need to be much. Fold the edges in. Fold the edges in again and give that a really good press, and you'll do the same for the other end. So we do want to have our edges nice and neat at each end here. Let's take this to the machine. We'll sew down the long edge of both sides of the handle fabric. On this one here, we're going to sew down the short edge, the long edge, the short, and the long again, and close that up completely. Okay, the short side of the little strap first, and then all the way down the long edge. And back up the short side. For the handle, just straight up and down both long edges. Okay, I have my main fabric here now, and this is the right side, so this is the good side faced up, and I've got the wrong side faced down. It's very difficult to see at the moment, so what I'll do is just put a couple of black lines on the wrong side of the fabric so that you can see that that's my wrong side. We want to take the wrong sides and bring the edges together, so bring the short edge together. We fold our fabric in half. We can pin the edges together so that they don't shift. This is slippery fabric, so it shifts quite easily. We have the right side faced up, which is the pretty side. We're going to take our little strap fastener, I don't know what to call this, and we're going to fold that in half. It doesn't matter which side, we're going to place this folded edge along the outside edge of the fabric, and I'm going to come up 4 inches from the bottom edge here. So just measure up 4 inches, which is the top edge here, and we'll pop a pin in here. So you've got your fabric open just there, the fold along here, and we've got our raw edges along there and on this side as well. We're going to sew the long edge here and here, and we're doing that from the right side, from the outside of the fabric. We're going to be creating French seams for this bag. So let's take this back to the machine and we'll sew down both long edges and secure this little strap at the same time. The seam allowance that we're doing is less than 1/4 of an inch. I've got a narrow foot on my machine. I'm going to use the edge of my foot as my stitching guide, and it'll be less than 1/4 of an inch seam. And on the other side we'll do exactly the same. When I get to the handle, I'll just backstitch over that just to secure that a little bit better. Okay, there's our little strap secured at the bottom of the bag. We've got our opening at the top here, and we're going to just neaten this up. We're going to turn this the other way around in a minute and do our French seam. So I do just want to tidy up all these wispy edges. Because I'm using rayon, it frays very quickly. So I'm going to trim that close to the stitching line, probably about 1/8 of an inch from the stitching line. And I have cut across the strap as well. It doesn't matter if it gets cut open at this point. So remember, this is the outside of our bag. We're going to turn this inside out now. Poke out your corners. And if you want to, you can go and press this and it'll help you, give you a nice stitching line. Now we're going to take this back to the machine. We're going to sew 1/4 of an inch seam allowance all the way along the side edge. We've got that little strap floating around on the inside there. You want to make sure that's inside the bag, not up next to the seam. So where that strap is inside here, I'm just going to pinch those edges on the seam there. So I've got my strap in underneath here. I've got the seam lined up nicely on the very edge, and I'll go and line this up all the way along the side and on the other side edge as well. Okay, I've clipped the long edges of both sides. You'll see the black lines here. That's the wrong side of my fabric. So I've currently got it inside out. We'll go and sew down the long edges. The stitching line I'm going to have now is at 1/4 of an inch. If you're more comfortable doing a little bit more, you can actually go to, say, 3/8 of an inch. That way you'll make sure all those raw edges from the French seam will be hidden away. And we'll do exactly the same at the other side. And when you get to the section where that strap is, you can go forward, back and forward again if you like. It's not actually going to carry any weight, so it doesn't matter if you just do a single row of stitching. So we've finished our French seams. Just go and turn your bag the right way around and just double check that your seams are nice and clean on the side there, that you don't have any wispy bits hanging out, and you can see that little tab just there is nice and secure. Turn it back to the wrong side, and this raw edge at the top here, we're going to do a double folded hem, and we're going to fold this up by about 1 inch. I'm going to fold that over. You really can just eyeball this. This is just a very, very simple and quick bag. I can measure that hem, and that is 1 inch anyway. So I've done one fold at 1 inch. I'll finger press that down to set that crease, and then I'll fold that again. And I'll press that down again to give me that 1 inch fold. And just make sure that's nice and even all the way around. With this double fold here, we're now going to take our handle fabric. So I've got this long piece here. Bring the raw edges together, fold it in half, find the center, and I'm just going to cut that in two. So we've now got 2 handles. Now we need to know where to put our handle. Fold the bag in half and fold it in half again, and you can mark it with a pin or a clip. Open it out. There's one handle. and the other, and on the inside as well. So you've opened that out. This is your center, and we have one handle, one side of our handle in the middle here, and the other one in the middle here. And on the other side, we've done the same thing. Take your handle, and we're going to take the raw edge and pop that in underneath the fold. So we did a similar technique when we did the apron a couple of weeks ago. Just place that in the center there. And the other raw edge can be tucked underneath the other handle position. Then you can bring the handle up to the top and just clip that in place. Same on this side. So I've got this clipped just to one side of the bag, and I'll pop another clip in just to keep it secure, and you can pop one in the bottom there to keep that secure as well if you want to. So that's the handle done on one side, and we'll turn it around and do the same for the other side. Pop the raw edge underneath, fold it up, okay, now we've got both handles in position. Just make sure that your handles are nice and straight all the way around. You don't want to have them twisted. That one's in place, and this other one is in place as well. Now we're going back to the machine again, and we're going to sew all the way around the entire bag along the bottom edge. We'll secure the handle in place, keep on stitching all the way around. What I like to do instead of starting another row of stitching is I'll just come along at the side seam, come back up here, and then continue again with the top stitch along the top edge. So we're going to do 2 rows of stitching that will secure the handle in place and just make it look nice as well. I've turned my bag back around so that the right side is outside, and that way I can see what I'm sewing along this folded edge here. I'm also starting along the side seam, and I'll sew along the bottom edge first. When you get to the position where your handles are, just make sure your handles are sitting nice and straight. And you don't really need to go back forward and back again or do a cross, because these are just a lightweight carry bag. They don't need to carry a lot, so just go straight down. When you come back to where you started from, which is on a seam line, keep your needle down, turn your work around, and just sew straight up the seam line. Come back around, and then you can just go straight along and top stitch the top edge and secure that handle again as you're going around. It's much quicker that way. Now, at this point, all the sewing is done unless you want to have boxed corners. So this is just a very flat bag. So if you're carrying a tablet or a laptop or some books, that's fine. I'm going to turn this back inside out, and I'm going to just do a small boxed corner, because most of the time if I'm going shopping, I'm going to have something with a little bit of bulk in it, and I want to be able to fit my bits and pieces in there a little bit easier. I'm going to mark 1 inch from the stitching line. So this is my stitching line just here. Take your ruler and measure 1 inch from the stitching line and 1 inch from the fold line at the bottom. Repeat that on this side. So 1 inch from the fold, again the stitching line. I don't usually go and mark both sides of the bag. This is just so that you can actually see what I've done. Open it out at the bottom and you'll see the lines will match up here on the corner. Pinch that together and same on this side. We'll just pin that together and we're going to sew along that green line that I've made. Same on this side. Pinch it out and we'll sew straight along there. I'm just going to take this quickly to the machine, sew straight across both edges here. Okay, I've sewn straight across the bottom corners on both sides of the bag. For those that are confused about how boxed corners work, you saw me measure out 1 inch on each side. That 1 inch gives you 2 inches. So across this whole width here, I'm going to have a span of 2 inches, and you can see that on the ruler there. But I did just measure 1 inch on each side of the bag. So the general rule for bags, whatever you mark out for your boxed corners, it will be double that on the side when you're finished. I'm not going to trim these off. I want that nice and neat without any raw edges fraying. Turn the bag back around the right way, and apart from the snaps, we're all done. Now on the outside, you've now got a 2 inch span across the base there, and that will in effect give you a 2 inch width across the side there as well. By putting a 1 inch boxed corner, that's actually going to drop the height of your bag as well by 1 inch. So just keep that in mind when you're determining how big you want to make your boxed corners. There's no rule to say you have to have them, and likewise there's no rule to say they have to be 1 inch or 5 inches. It's whatever you want it to be. You're the creator. You decide how tall you want your bag to be. Okay, nearly done. Let's get some snaps on here. So I'm using little plastic snaps for this bag, and as I said earlier, you can use the metal snaps and then you can just hand sew those on if you don't have them, or you could even use an elastic, sew an elastic in at the bottom, have it one whole piece, and it can just be wrapped around the bag. You can use Velcro as well. And I just thought I'd show you, this is how I keep my little plastic snaps. So I have OCD. I've got them all in separate colours and colour gradings as well. The tubs that I'm using are little pill boxes. So they've just got the day of the week on their little flip top lid, and they're really good to store all of your little plastic snaps. I've just gone and removed the lettering on the little pill boxes. So these are a great way to store little plastic snaps. Okay, what we're going to do here, what our aim is when we fold this bag up later, is to have this wrapping around the entire bag and keeping it secure. So that will come around like this and like that. We'll have our snap closing it. That's how you will determine which side your snaps are going to be. I'm going to overlap this now. It's nice and neat. It's coming around from the other side. All I've done is just brought the two edges together, wrapped one over the top of the other, and I'm overlapping that by about 1 inch. So I've got the other piece of fabric underneath there. So that's 1 inch there, and there's 1 inch along there. I'm going to place these together, take my awl, and then right in the center I'm going to poke a hole through all of those layers there. I've got my fingers underneath. I don't want to poke a hole in the bag. I only want to poke a hole in the little straps. Take the one that's on the top and place the cap on the top here, and then one of the other sides, place that over the top, I'll squeeze that together in a minute, and I'm just double checking that I have everything the right way around. So that is going to sit over the top, which means my other little spiky hat thing is going to come from underneath. So that will come underneath that tab. Just press it together and just double check that you're going to have them the right way. So they're laying nice and flat. Bring that one around, this one around to sit on top, and you can see that they're going to snap together nicely. When you know that all is well, then you can take your tool or your pliers and squeeze it together. Check that that's working. That's all good. And job's done. Now to fold up the bag. So just fold it in thirds. Pull the handles out. You can fold those in, and you can fold that in thirds. You can even fold it in half again if you want. And then you have your little bag tucked away, which is nice and lightweight, and you can go and make quite a few of these and put them inside your handbag so that when you go shopping, you can quickly go and open them out and store all your little goodies inside there. So it really doesn't matter how you fold it up. You can just roll up the whole thing and roll it up again over here. At the end of the day, it does not matter at all. Wasn't that a quick project? I reckon you could probably have these bags done in around 10 minutes. Once you've cut up your bits of fabric, they'll just go together very, very quickly. So yeah, just another way to make a foldable bag that is nice and lightweight, and you can carry that around with you. So when you come into shops like ours and you find some nice little knickknacks or treasures, you'll be able to pull a bag out of your bag and take away your treasures. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I shall catch you next time. Bye for now.